I probably wouldn't even be in the US right now if it wasn't for you because you helped me reach out to that first manager. And although I'm not with them anymore, everything's kind of like a domino effect where I got brought onto a different manager. A different manager ended up getting me with Corson Agency, come out to the US. So like,
Hey guys, welcome to the Industry Set podcast where we interview high caliber artists and discuss all things music marketing, branding, networking, creating opportunities for yourself, management, booking agents, and much, much more. And so if you are a music producer and you're looking to level up in all those areas, then be sure to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel below so then you don't miss out on future episodes. Today's episode, we're interviewing BADVOID. And so BADVOID was actually one of my first clients through Industry Set before I opened it up to the public. And it was one of the clients that I started working with closely in terms of helping him navigate with management and eventually moving the brand a little bit further in that department. Now, like a year later, he's absolutely killing it. He's moved over to the States from Australia over the way to America. And he's got a booking agent in America with like Corson Agency. He's playing shows now. Now he's doing really, really big things and signing to some really decent labels as well. And so in this podcast, we went over a lot of the hardships and origin story that he went through in terms of developing his sound and building up his career from the very get-go. And so that being said, I'll see you in the podcast. So just curious, like tell me a little bit about how you originally got into production, like the origin story of it.
well, I first started making music when I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. I started playing like guitar and I was like in a little rock band and I was writing music. And then I think when I got to like the age of 10 or 11, my brother showed me Skrillex. It's the exact same as everyone's story, I know, but my brother showed me Skrillex and I really wanted to learn how to make that sort of music. So I just went on YouTube, downloaded a cracked version of FL Studio, and then, yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
So you had a little bit of a background on it and then, dabbled into like so just to reiterate, like what kind of like made you feel so inclined to like, get Ableton? Like what was it specifically about production that excited you so much?
Just being able to make my own music, honestly, since I was already writing music like with guitar and trying to write vocals, it just felt like the next best step to make, don't have to be writing music like on a guitar or anything. I can just do it all inside the DAW and yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Most people's thing is Skrillex, of course. Mine was Dead Mouse. I saw this video of him on YouTube through my like YouTube suggestions from after like I discovered Daft Punk, and then I started getting seen all these other artists that have like helmets and whatnot. And so Dead Mouse was the next thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was the first time I'd heard any kind of electronic dance music after only knowing hip hop and bands. So it was like, I understand that feeling as well. It's like a whole nother level of creativity, and you're going down this rabbit hole of what the hell is this all about.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
so tell me, after you downloaded Ableton, were you like very religious about working on it like all the time, or was it kind of just a casual thing at that point?
Honestly, at the start, it was more of like a hobby. I really wanted to release my own music, but obviously my music was terrible at the time. So for the first like 2, 3 years into actually producing my own music, I would probably spend about like 6 hours a week, like not much at all. And then it kind of just got to the point where my music was getting better. I was like, I should probably put more time towards it, and that's just kind of how it went.
Hmm. And so how long was it when you started taking it like super seriously?
Um, It was about 2018, 2019, so about 5 years ago, 2, 3 years into the production journey.
So like 2 to 3 years in, that's when you started taking it like super seriously.
Yeah,
What
I
was the
dropped out.
turning point? What was like the turning point? Like why you were like, oh, I've got to now do this seriously. I have to.
Honestly, there was like not one specific turning point. It got to the point where I was about to finish school and I was like, I know that I don't want to work like a trade for a job or do anything like that. I was like, this is what I want to do. So I just went full steam ahead and then never looked back. I actually dropped out of school, moved to Brisbane, and then I just went full focus on the music from there.
Yeah. And how did your parents feel about that, like dropping out of school and then just going all on your music?
Um, Obviously they wanted me to stay in school and finish, but I was very passionate about it at that time still, and I said it's like 100% what I want to do.
Mm.
So they did support it, and yeah, they were supportive.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking it because I had the same situation actually. I dropped out of uni like a year into. I was doing a prep course for 6 months because I didn't even like get good enough grades to get to the university my parents wanted me to go to. And like
Yeah,
both my siblings both went to university. So my parents like, you have to go to university. And in year 12, I didn't even get good enough there because I was too busy trying to write music. Like I just
yeah,
discovered, Logic and shit like that. And yeah, after that year of trying to do the prep course, which I failed the first time because I was too busy in the library trying to collab with producers off forums, I told my parents like I just want to go all in this. They were not supportive at all because they were like, how are you going like how does this make money? They don't understand it. Like, it's their different generation, of course.
yeah, of
And this
course.
was way back then when this was like 2011 when music production wasn't really a very common thing to do. Like it was only like you'd only people you'd see that are actually doing it are guys like Diplo and shit like that. So there wasn't very much
Yeah.
of a low tier to mid tier kind of level that were living effectively off it. So yeah, I was in the same boat honestly. And so how long was it until they started to recognize that this is an actual thing?
Um, yeah, that's a tough one. They kind of, do you mean when they recognized it for me, or do you mean like the whole industry in general?
Recognize it for you more so. Well, I mean, I guess it's the same thing, really. Like when they
Yeah.
realized that it was something that is viable and it's an actual job.
They knew that it was always viable and it could be an actual job. They just knew that it took a lot of hard work and determination to actually make it a job. Um, when they like fully believed it for me, I would say it's 2021 or 2022 when I started releasing on some of the bigger labels and I started playing my own shows in Australia. That's when
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this week's podcast. If you are a music producer and you're looking to level up in your music marketing, your branding, your networking, creating opportunities for yourself, your production, your mixing and mastering, your sound design, your overall quality, quantity, all you got to do is click the link in our description. It'll take you to our website where you can sign up for some free training, some cool videos in terms of how to level up, in terms of getting you label ready and also how to get you tour ready. And so you can also book in a call with myself, one of the other student advisors, and from there we can get a little bit more clear and specific about your situation and whether we can help you or not. We might not be able to, but the only way to find out is actually have a conversation about it. That being said, let's get back into the podcast.
I started playing my own shows in Australia. That's when they could fully see
Right.
the vision and all of that stuff. But before that, they were they were still supportive before, but they were also trying to convince me to, get another job, try bring more money in because
Yeah,
you never know if it's going to work out or
for
not.
sure. Yeah, I had the same
But
thing actually because my parents were just more concerned about the money thing. And it wasn't until I
yeah,
was getting some shows where it was like, 1,300, 1,500 plus, getting flight out to Sydney or whatever and accommodation. That's when my parents were like, oh, actually, like you can probably live off this, whatever. But that was like after doing it for like 6 years or some shit. Because I was on and off for a long time. So yeah, the reason why I was asking that is because I think there's some people who they come from like a really rich background and they kind of have the autonomy to do whatever they want and their parents are like whatever because they've always got that safety
yeah,
net from the parents. Well, some of us, like in your case, in my case, it's not always like that where there's always that
100%.
doubt in the back of your head where it's like I'm actually going all in something and I have to take this risk and I don't know if it's going to pay off, but I need to do it because it's the only thing that is giving me that sense of fulfillment and nothing else makes sense to me. And so I feel like people who are put in our position are the ones that end up going a lot further. Like we're obviously limited at the start because we don't have, access to a lot of opportunities and money and whatnot. And we have to kind of fend
Yeah,
for ourselves, especially if you're based in Australia, because, there's fuck all opportunities as you know, and as fuck all events. But having to be pushed through that hardship at the original point, that's why it's like allowed you to become a much stronger individual because you've had to go through that barrier to get to where you are now. So now you're at a point where like, everything's easy because you've gone through the hardship, right?
yeah. And one thing I always tell people, if you're not prepared to go through the struggle, you don't want it that bad. So I'm grateful for all the shitty times and all the struggle I've been through trying to actually make this my job. But fuck, it worked out. So I'm
Definitely.
grateful for that.
Definitely. So that's good to hear about like your origin and where you've come from. And, now you're releasing on some pretty decent labels. So, from when we started working together, you were kind of just getting the ball rolling with some like mid-tier releases, but just update us on what's been happening since then. Cause like I know you've gotten some releases on like Keizo's label and some other ones.
Yeah, I release pretty consistently on Keizo's label. Done a few releases with them. Released on Bass Rush Insomniac at the start of July, so just a few weeks ago.
Sick.
And I got a few big releases coming up. I can't talk too much about that right now, but other than that, I've done some pretty cool official remixes. Did a one for Keizo, which was on his label again, of course. And yeah, I mean that's been about it really. Just been sticking to mainly Keizo's label because it's a good foundation and they've supported me a lot. Um, Now we're just trying to stick with the Insomniac team. They're very good to be with. So yeah, we're kind of just trying to stick with the Insomniac team right now.
Yeah, sick. And now you're in America as well. You've moved over there. Tell me about how that's been going.
Oh, bro, not gonna lie, it's been rough, especially the first few months. There's a lot of hurdles when you get here. But other than that, I've been playing shows, just doing music full time. It's been great. Honestly, I love it. Blessed to be out here. And I've got a show tomorrow actually with Kaiser, sold out show at the Academy in LA. So yeah,
Sick.
it's been good.
And what was the show that you had met up with like another industry set student? What was that show that you guys were playing at?
That was last weekend. It was at the Skyway Theater in Minneapolis. It was organized through my agent, pretty much all of his team on one big
Yeah.
lineup for a 360 event. It was cool.
Yeah, sick. Yeah, so obviously, you've been through a lot since we've originally started working together because I remember there was like, trying to find the right team and whatnot. We went through a bunch
Yeah.
of hurdles and now you're with like, some good people as it sounds like. But what I'd also like to talk about is a bit about your like production for a bit. So like, do you have a general routine for, finishing music faster?
Um, Not really in terms of finishing music faster. I know a lot of producers, they'll like just go on Ableton, they'll start multiple whips per day, or per week. But I kind of work a bit differently in that sense where if I start one idea and I like that idea, I will just stick to it until I end up finishing it. So it's kind of got me to that point where my songwriting and all that stuff is like pretty down packed. So if I've got a good idea, the rest of the song just kind of comes easily at this point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And so with like your workflow, is there anything that you've learned over the last, couple of years as you've been, finalizing your craft? Is there any kind of workflow things you've discovered that have really helped you out with finishing things faster?
Honestly, using like creating your own template on Ableton, like having all your groups organized, just increases the workflow by so much because you can just go into like a project and you know exactly where to place anything. There's no disorganization. Everything's just down packed and just a lot easier.
Hmm. And so when you're talking about this whole template, do you feel like you're somebody who prefers to have more minimal approach with the template, or would you more so have it more filled out? Because there's
It's
obviously
pretty filled
pros and
out.
cons from either side.
Yeah, it's pretty filled out, like effects groups, drums, hi-hats, like it's all separated. Basses, it's pretty in detail, but that kind of just what works for me.
And so do you have like just your bunch of signature sounds and kind of your go-to drums already in the template, good to go?
Drums, that's the only thing I'll already have in there, but the rest of it's all grouped anyway, so I can
Yeah.
just place it in there
Yeah.
when the time comes for it.
Yeah. I'm actually in the same boat, really. I have every template starts with an entire drum rack that's already filled out from top to bottom with kick drum, snares, hi-hats, all programmed in, processed, and then all the other stuff I can just drag in as racks. So
Yeah,
I mean
exactly. Yeah.
it's pretty easy from that point. But thank God I moved to Ableton because that was just not a thing in Logic. You could not do that very easily.
Same with me. I started off on FL Studio and then I switched to Ableton, I think 2020, 2021, which isn't even that long ago, but God, it's made my life a lot easier ever since I have.
Yeah, definitely. And so I'm also curious, like what would you say is any advice you have on any upcoming artists on how to create a unique artist brand? Because even before we started working together, you already had like a pretty good aesthetic with the brand. Like it had a good color scheme, it had a good theme. Like it was very identifiable, and also the name's good as well. So would you have any advice in terms of like creating a unique artist brand?
Honestly, just try your best to be different. It's kind of hard with how many producers and artists are out there at the moment, but um, yeah, just try your best to be different and try and make it as personal as possible at the same time, because a lot of people are trying to be like somebody else. Just be yourself. And yeah, that's pretty much all I would say in
Yeah,
terms of branding.
yeah, yeah. And so as well as this is what I was talking about in Neartech the other week as well, because he pushes TikTok pretty hard, and it's something that I'm very religious about now, just because it's a lot of the other ways of marketing and building a brand is just not as efficient or as free as growing on short form stuff. Do you have any advice for like upcomers on how to start growing on like short form content?
Honestly, it's hard because it can get very discouraging, especially if you're uploading every single day. It's, your first 100 videos might not get more than 100 views, but then that 101st video could get 100,000, and then
Yeah.
it just builds and capitalizes from there. So the best piece of advice for short form content, just don't give up and just keep at it, because eventually you are going to see some success. It might not be as big as you want it to be, but it's all about building.
Yeah,
So yeah,
100%. I'm 100% there with you, because I've got some clients where they've, you know, done the posting for like a 30-day challenge, and then it was like they got only 100 views on each video, and then it's the 31st day that they got 1 million on a
exactly.
video. So you never know when it's going to happen. You just got to keep staying consistent. And a lot of people, they just stop because, like you were saying, they, post a couple, they only get 50 plays, and then they go, TikTok's bullshit, I'm out of this. And they go back to Instagram.
One
And
good what oh sorry, one good thing too is when you're posting on like TikTok or YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels even, it's usually not getting pushed to your audience. It's getting pushed to a For You page. So people who's never heard of your music or even seen you is going to see your video. They might not watch all of it, but you still, if your video is only getting 300 views, that's still about 300 people who's heard your song, even if it's for a split second. If you upload it every single day, that's going to add up, like the amount of people that's watching, so you might not be getting those 100,000 views, but 300 views per day of new people is a lot better than what you get on Instagram or regular posting, you know what I mean? So that's just how I like to look at it.
yeah, totally. And I'm curious about I've got this saying about, in terms of like where we're at with the industry and oversaturation, like anybody can get really good with production now because of the tools and resources that are available. So like anybody can get really good, right? But it's the taste that separates you from the rest. Because like, between me and you could be on the same level of quality, right? But
Hmm.
we'd still have an end result of making different music, right?
Yeah, of course.
So like by that, it's just based on the taste that we have. So that's what's really going to determine whether somebody actually likes your music or not, is based on the taste, more so the quality, right? Because that's where we're
Yeah.
getting to now, right? So what's your perspective on that, and how, the industry is getting very oversaturated, and everyone's getting really good. Like, what's your overall thoughts on that?
I mean, it's not a bad thing at the same time, the more people that are making music and putting music out there is just going to grow the industry and the scene even bigger. Maybe more in the US, in like Europe, as I say, like Australia. But um, yeah, I don't know. You can tell, like, you can be on the same level of like music production as somebody, but like you said, it's a taste. So obviously, it's harder to get discovered when there's more people making music. But if your music is that good, you're gonna stand out anyway. You know what I mean?
Hmm. And how would you say that you've improved your taste, like in your music? Like, how would have you developed your, signature sound? Like, what have you done to do that?
Honestly, I was just more open to listening to other genres of music, like because when we first started talking, I was pretty much like strictly mid-tempo, and I started really getting into drum and bass. And in terms of finding my signature sound, a lot of it was honestly just trial and error until like happy accidents, literally. And then once I knew what worked, it kind of just kept working on it and evolved into the Bad Void sound.
Yeah,
Pretty
awesome.
pretty accidental, honestly, but you can't go wrong with a happy accident.
And so you were saying just then about, when we first started working together, you were mostly making mid tempo. What was your experience of us working together? Like, how was that for you?
Honestly, perfect. Like you said before, I kind of already had the brand like somewhat down packed, but in terms of like pitching out to labels and managers and everything, you helped me out a ton. Like you helped get me my first like actual good manager that I got with, and you helped me get down packed on the branding even more in terms of trying to design like an emblem. I remember you were saying having a good logo and a good brand's cool, but if you look at Skrillex, those three little lightning things that he's got, if you've seen that posted anywhere, like whether it's on a wall or anything, you're gonna know that's Skrillex. So every artist needs their own emblem, and that was a big help for me. Um, yeah, it's been great.
Awesome, man. I'm glad I was able to help you along that journey and see you, flourish since then. It's why I enjoy doing this because, I've had my success in my own career, but it then gets to a point where I'm like, what next? And I get a lot of fulfillment out of helping people because it's like I'm living vicariously through them, like because I know I
Yeah,
was a part of that. So it's just like how why a manager does what they do, right? It's like I get to do that at scale because I get to work with like multiple people per day at, who are all in different levels and they're all trying to achieve different things. So like I get that dopamine fixation every time somebody else wins. So it's a win-win for
yeah,
me because it's like, I mean, not only I get that fixation, but it's like more bragging rights for me, right? Because then I can be like, I did that, I helped that, and then it's also
yeah.
more people want to work with me because of that. So it's like, it's a win-win situation. I like helping people, people like working with me, and I enjoy getting results for people. So it's very fulfilling feeling, seeing people like you do so well and having a blast doing it. So yeah, very
Thank
wholesome.
you.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I'm not even I probably wouldn't even be in the US right now if it wasn't for you because you helped me reach out to that first manager. And although I'm not with them anymore, everything's kind of like a domino effect where I got brought onto a different manager. That different manager ended up getting me with Corson Agency, come out to the US. So like if we weren't working together, like God knows where I would be. I could still
Hell
be
yeah.
here, of course, but you know, it kind of everything happens in like a
For a
domino
reason. Yeah,
effect.
everything happens for a reason
Exactly.
as well. Yeah. So that's the thing as well. It's like, despite things not working out with one, person, it led to the next thing. So,
Exactly.
all the bad shit ends up leading to some good shit. So I'm glad to
Of
hear it's all
course.
worked out. Awesome,
Thank
man.
you.
So just to, tie up the end of the podcast, could you just let everybody know what you got going on in your world and anything you can, talk about that's coming up that's exciting?
Um, so tomorrow sold out show at Academy LA with Kaiser. Got some other shows coming up for September, October. Not doing any shows for the rest of August because I'm going to the UK. Got We just finished our EP actually, so that's been pitched out to labels, waiting to hear back from that. Other than that, that's it, really.
Hell yeah, man.
The
Well,
man, oh,
oh,
my bad. Also, coming back to Australia end of October, so you're gonna see me on some shows when I'm back.
oh, hell yeah. Well, is it like some kind of tour or is it just like a bunch of shows?
Just a mini tour, yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah,
too big,
yeah.
but coming back for pretty much end of October to Christmas. So yeah, you're
Hell
gonna
yeah,
see me
man.
around.
Hell yeah, man. Looking forward to it. Well, thanks for being a part of the podcast. And as I was saying before, really good to see that you're absolutely killing it and thriving in the US now. But yeah, man, we'll stay in
Thank you.
touch and I'll speak to you very soon.
Yeah, I'll speak to you soon. I appreciate you having me on.